So I want to believe in Cube 2, Hypercube. I quite like Cube 1 from 1997. I don't think it's an amazing film. People can poke holes in the film not being as clever or profound as it might think it is, or it's hackneyed or not that clever, cliche, badly executed, whatever. I actually quite like the film. I think its execution and idea is rather original, not life changing, but extremely engaging during its runtime. Certainly. Cube 2. I want to believe in Cube 2. I want to believe in Hypercube. I really do. I love the idea of this being some low key early 2000s deep cut masterpiece that only people on the internet think is secretly genius. And they're discussing it on forums and it's like, oh no, Cube 2, that's the one. I wish. But I kind of, for the first half of the film, I'm totally on board with Cube 2. I am. The film's gripping. And there is an extraordinary series of ideas permutating within Cube 2. And it builds up to something interesting, although a bit too. There's a balancing act which I think falters between ambiguity and space and mystery versus reveals, sensational drama and explaining the unknown. Insofar as it builds the gimmick of the first film, the ideas are in the right place. The execution is perhaps halted somewhat, or rather outright, by early to mid 2000s cheaper CGI graphics. I think computer generated imagery graphics. Well, that's silly me. In any case, I would love for this film to have had more of a budget for. There's a sequence in the middle of this film which is probably going to be memed if it gets out there on, social media, TikTok, these terrible little places, which are a bit like the Cube now that I think about it. But let's stop thinking about that promptly. You see, Cube 2, I want that sequence to work, although I had to admit to myself that it's clumsily executed, perhaps just too enthusiastic about current technology without being skeptical of it in 2002. Hypercube, I would love for. I think it's too easy to dismiss Hypercube as something which tried and failed, and so therefore we need to really lambast it, because there is ambition here. And I have to say, I sometimes don't mind if a film isn't perfect, isn't airtight. If there is ambition there, it makes the film likable for me. And so as a result, we're going to be publishing this vague endorsement of Cube 2. We will get onto Cube 0, though I'd just like to. Cube 0, I don't know, ought I be worried about spoiling my thoughts on Cube 0? I say probably not. Well, without getting into it in too much detail, Cube 2 is the more interesting of the sequels, because it builds upon the concept in a more interesting way. Cube 0, aka Cube 3, I feel like the pulling back the camera is less interesting rather than Cube somehow finding a way to kind of keep going inward and kind of keep you guessing more and more, which Cube 2 is accomplishing for at least its first half. There are still some ambiguities. Even as Cube 2 ends, you can interpret or perceive the film as containing a certain ambiguous residue that is still kind of horrifying and affecting. The thing is, I'll just go into... I'm going to spoil the film now, if you don't mind. The company, Axon, I ought to know this. The company which is given the data at the end of the film from Alex Task, the necklace data, little proto flash drive thing, SD card, memory stick. It's ambiguous as to whether this company is working for the US government or perhaps operating against it, independent of it. It's almost implied that you can draw this idea that Cube 1, it's a government operation, implied partly this is, well, based upon Cube 2's logic and the character of the Colonel, who is aware seemingly of what the first cube was, and the second cube, possibly the contractor, the group that built the second cube is, and the first cube is now turned against the government or trying to supersede it. A cube is what, and Cube 2 certainly, it's what something like Black Mirror wants to be, and frankly it's better because I think Black Mirror is too bland and unimaginative, and frankly I might even claim that probably because it's adapting different source material, but that heavy metal program that's out right now, Love, Death and Robots or whatever it is called, they adapted the Drowned Giant from Ballard recently. It appears to be a more interesting program than Black Mirror, which I think it's very basic and kind of obvious and needlessly sort of, oh, we should be worried about this, oh, we should be worried about that. It's like, there's no, with Ballard there's a kind of, dare I say, coy, playful bemusement at the ideas within Ballard, whereas just Charlie Brooker, who's got his start via Chris Morris, who's far more talented than Brooker, I think that Black Mirror is some of the least interesting yet wildly acclaimed fictional, speculative fiction phenomena in recent memory, frankly. In any instance, Cube 2 has a lot of potential, a lot of audacity, which I appreciate, even if the execution is somewhat pod. In any case, I hold my endorsement, stand by my endorsement of Cube 2 here on AOD. Thanks again, everyone. Have a very nice day. Oh, if you want to have an even nicer day, turn off this video. Get out of YouTube and social media. You might as well. Thank you, everyone.